My pleasure to be here with Rabbi Sam Intrator, who is the founder and director of Kavana Life. Kavana Life, which is geared towards raising consciousness towards tefillah, towards prayerful living. It goes beyond prayer as well, but Kavana means direction or intentionality. And that's connected to this issue that you've got involved in with singles.
Yes.
Of how do we add more intentionality and kavanah to that as well. So before we get to your work, maybe you can share a little bit. Is there a singles crisis in the Jewish community?
Oh my God, is there ever a singles crisis? I mean, I can cite it statistically, but more seriously, I can cite it personally. For starters, I'll just cite a Pew study in 2001, which showed that 60% of American Jewry was married. By 2013, that number tragically fell to a touch above 51%. Mm-hmm. So we're just not reproducing.
Yeah.
And when you talk to singles and you see how stuck they are, dead end, overwhelmed, too many possibilities, confusion, there's a crisis.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming. I mean, I myself being in that world, the Upper West Side world. It's in some ways it's harder being in the Upper West Side. In some ways it's easier. I didn't even live there. I lived in Washington Heights, but I just remember the intensity of some who didn't have any date options, some who had one every night of the week, and the judgment and the intensity, and it took over their Jewish life really. You know, so how did you get into this? What brought you into this work?
The magic words, the Upper West Side. I was there too. I was rabbi of the Carlebach Shul and largely singles community, and clearly seeing the challenges then, and now viewing them 20 odd years later. Oh my God, it's gotten so much more difficult. People are just not knowing what to do, and what was the Upper West Side has now become the country and the world. It used to be the community and the soul community. Right. Now there's one in Miami Beach, there's one here in Arizona. They're all over the world. People are just and it's a positive thing for people to come together and try to create community. Mm-hmm. But we have to look at problem solving. And I would just say that when I started this in Miami Beach, I would just listen to singles, hear their problems, hear their stories. And then I realized, hey, this is a story. Mm-hmm. Let's start talking about this publicly. Begin a public conversation.
Great. So in all of that listening, what's a solution or some of the solutions that you advocate for here?
Sure. Well, I would say in listening, the first thing I realized is a lot of people said to me, Rabbi, we know the same Friday night Shabbaton, we go to the same dinners, we see each other, we're limited.
Right.
So one thought is, even in the case of Miami Beach and possibly here in Arizona too, to bring back an old Miami Beach tradition back in my day, in the day when we used to come to various kosher hotels, and there were programs where singles from all over the world would meet, and to begin connecting. And I'm looking at different options, how to connect singles communities around the country and world, to be able to interface, to take like-minded people, to bring them together, to begin conversations. And the specific solution that I'm working on is trying to see how we can have singles empowered to speak about this issue themselves.
Right.
We have experts telling them, do this, don't do that, and you're doing this wrong, and from parents to you name it. Mm-hmm. What I decided to do is to turn the cards and say, hey guys and gals, why aren't you married? Tell us. And in beginning to listen to that, I realized that Friday night dinner is not enough. I realized that in the conversation, in the circle itself, people open up in phenomenally candid ways. And they really, I called it for myself, a hishtapchut hanefesh, an outpouring of the soul. They really began talking about what it's like and what their problems are.
Right.
And you know what? A shy person heard that and all of a sudden felt empowered and started speaking. And group chemistry gets created. One of my groups I did after Rosh Hashanah and Shabbat Shuvah, we had about 30 people in the group. 7 got into dating relationships. And not only did they connect to each other, but if they saw somebody who might connect with a friend of theirs somewhere else, they became the shotgun, the singles did. So the possibilities of candid, open conversation, I think, are phenomenal.
What are some of the unique challenges that emerge within the Orthodox community or modern Orthodox community in terms of this dating challenge, singles challenge, and what are some of the unique challenges within the broader Jewish community once you leave Orthodoxy? And is it really kind of a totally different sphere?
I think there are minor differences, but I think there's much commonality. In the same group and in the same room, will have Orthodox people and people who are conservadox and people who will go to Chabad but don't connect to Chabad officially, and Reform and you name it. As long as people are open to wanting to live a Jewish life, I think outside of the ultra-Orthodox Haredi world where there's a whole other set of values
Yeah.
from what you call modern orthodoxy and the left, for lack of a better way of saying it. The crisis is similar.
Yeah.
I mean, the needs are a bit different. Obviously, Orthodox people want to try to connect to like-minded people. And one of the things we're really pushing is getting like-minded people to connect to like-minded people.
Right.
So we're doing like a natural pyramid. You invite 3 of your friends, and 20 of your friends are going to invite 3 of their friends. And some of them may not have met through the 3rd, 4th generation.
Right.
My last event that I did, I had over 200 people in South Beach on Tu B'Shvat. And it started with a chain of around 5 or 6 people, each inviting their friends, and then I would call the friends friends. And by the 6th, 8th generation, we had people who never met.
Right.
And we're broadening the circle, but they're all like-minded because the core people are similar.
Right.
We do have an age distinction, but even within the circles, you will many times have a 40-year-old guy who thinks that he can connect to a young lady who's 25. So we're trying to be open to that, yet we're trying to make it friendly, age-friendly. So it's a little bit of a challenge. But
What's advice you give to shadchans? What are things that shadchans, matchmakers, are doing really well and helpful? And what are things they might be doing that alienate?
First of all, we had shadchans at some of our events. And I asked them to really be subtle. Because I think one of the things that alienate is when they come on strong with their laundry list and their...
Or match up randomly.
Right,
you're young.
That's right. So what I tried doing is saying to them, I'm putting you on the floor, be very subtle. If you see somebody has needs, go over gently. And some people don't want a shadchan in the room.
Right.
So I think the shadchan really needs to be much more of a silent facilitator. And they're too overt and sometimes too pushy. And I think in this process, I've invited them, but I've tried to low-key them, which is really where they belong. You know who the greatest shadchan is? God, right? And he's very low-key about it. He sits up there, suddenly brings people together. And that's really...
We're in the season of Pesach, and the Gemara says, in Sotah, I believe, that Kriyas Yamsuf is nothing compared to matching up 2 people.
That's right.
Mizavik Zvugim. So we see the challenging work here. Now, what's the role of websites and all these apps and stuff? Is your sense that the in-person thing is more powerful?
By all means. I mean, that's, I think, the failure of our generation. You're not marrying a picture, you're not marrying a concept. And having profiles, even speed dating, which I appreciate its intention. What are you? What do you do? What do you like? And who are your friends? I mean, we need to begin real conversation. And in this circle, we sit for an hour and a half. And it's not about politics or religion or philosophy. It's about your life. And it's about people sharing candidly what their challenges are. Support system becomes created. There are a variety of different positive benefits that accrue to
Yeah. You know, one of the other pieces, I think, in our communities is that we treat people who are single more like their kids. They might be 40. They might be 60, right? But we oftentimes treat the 30-year-old who's married with kids as an adult in the community, and the single 40-year-old. So I wonder if part of this is working to facilitate meaningful interactions that help folks to find their match, their life match, their life partner, but also to figure out how to continue to add dignity to the experience while you're still single.
No, that's such a powerful point, because at my first event that I did on this, we had about 20% of the people were married. And I wanted them for that reason to be there. I wanted them not to be in charge, but to listen. And they responded, and there were some challenging moments where some marrieds thought that singles missed a certain opportunity in their life. But I think what we really need to do here is empower singles. This needs to be a singles voice. It's a problem facing singles. They live it, they face it. And we need people to guide and to support, but I think empowering singles to sit, problem solve. The last event I did, I did in a beautiful venue, because singles said to me, Rabbi, we're sick and tired of the same old venues. The shul's a beautiful place, but not a place to get
enough of married people up top planning events.
That's it.
Empower the voices, empower leadership on their own terms. I think that's wonderful. So now, what advice do you like to give to individuals? Someone comes, they say, Rabbi Intrator or Rav Sammy or whatever, bracketing the person who says, I'm quite content being single, I like dating, I'm no hurry, or I want to be a single parent, but bracketing that, someone says, look, I really want a family, I really want a life partner, I'm ready, I've tried so hard, but I've dated, I've gone to these events, it's not working. So what advice do you give to them to keep hope and continue to be involved?
I use myself as an example. I got married late in life, I'd given up many times, and I revived myself and kept on trying again. And I just tell them, even after you give up, start again. Don't give up. And I think that the challenges are no end. There's no end to the challenges they're going to face. But I think bitachon,
Right.
stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah.
And yes, you're going to go through periods where it looks like it's impossible. It'll never happen. But tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
And just remember that giving up is a momentary reaction.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if also it's important to have positive Jewish spiritual spaces that aren't single scenes, to take those breaks, because I think I've met people who they go to work, then they go on a date, and they're discouraged, and then they go to work, and it drains the life out of them. So if they can find other spaces that give them chizuk, give them strength and inspiration, that can also be helpful.
Yeah, no, my last event was done in a party place that rents for $12,000 a night. Miraculously, the man was very generous. It's called the Temple House in South Beach.
Yeah.
And it was like a whole new dimension to a singles event.
Right.
And we had spiritual moments.
Right.
But mostly we had candid interaction.
Yeah,
whether
beautiful.
it was singling, mingling,
Beautiful,
or whether it was sitting in a circle. It was really, and the ambiance creates a whole other background that makes you just feel positive and good.
Yeah.
Everybody was happy.
Right.
And that's what we have to do, is create events that make people smile.
Wonderful. So my last question for you then is, how do we add dignity to dating experiences and single events? What are advice you give to people who are trying to look critically for their partner, but also don't want to hurt other people? And I know we could write books on this issue. But what's the spiritual consciousness one brings in this encounter to another? On the one hand, trying to determine if this is their life partner. On the other hand, treating this as a human being and not as the object of one's desire or fulfillment.
My God, you're asking the deepest, most delicate, difficult question in the world. And I think there's no set answer to that.
Yeah.
I think you need to feel your way through, know you'll make mistakes, and you can correct them along the way.
Right.
And, to me, prayer is kavanah life.
Right.
It's having kavanah, having sincerity that you're doing the right thing, you're trying to do the right thing. I think trying to do the right thing really becomes doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And if you later realize you did something wrong,
Yeah.
you can always correct. There's always tshuva.
Right.
So I don't go in with a scripted answer, but I say let's feel our way through it together.
Right.
And I sit and counsel and talk with people,
Yeah.
and I make mistakes too, and we all do. And that's we're a tradition where we get new chances all the time.
It goes across the board, but I've heard from women in particular that in acting menschlich, in acting kindly, that gives the impression to some guys that they're interested. Right, so they almost have to act coldly, and that creates a kind of a difficult dynamic, because just being nice means I'm interested in you in some guys' minds, and that's not, which is certainly not the case. And so I think adding derech eretz and sort of a buber I thou, the spiritual consciousness, the kavanah of we're in this together, and we're Klal Yisrael, whether you're going to be my life partner or not. Like let's give each other strength. And I think that's it's a wonderful thing you're doing. So really, kol hakavod and chazak v'amatz, continue.
Thank you. And keep on doing amazing work. It's a privilege to be with you here,
so much,
seeing the amazing community you're creating here.
Thank you so much.
And such deep Torah learning. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Keep up the
Kol
great work.
hakavod.
And listen, if you're single and struggling out there, feel free to comment below the video here to hear your thoughts or pushbacks or questions or ideas, so we can continue the dialogue going. Thanks so much.